Well, sure, a lot of people, a lot of booths out here. How has gentrification affected this neighborhood? Because this is an historic section, right? It has a status as being historic.
Yes, it is. We're on 7th Street Southeast, and it's part of the old section of the city, and it's defined as part of the historic district. And it's changed drastically. Housing prices have escalated. I can't even tell you how many times over. So that it forced a lot of people out of the city, and particularly working class African American people have been pushed out, and people who are poor, people who lived in the projects, are no longer here. And in many cases where the projects were, have now been converted into condominiums, and of
Just
course,
like some of the black churches, I think,
yes,
right?
Yes. Yes, if you look at churches in this area, you'll see, too, that many of them have been, and schools, public schools have been sold to private developers and are developed now into condominiums. There's been such a boom in housing, new condominiums as well as buildings being turned into condominiums. And you can see the difference in the whole complexion of the whole community itself.
And I guess it's not really bad that people want to, let's say, develop and create new homes and, let's say, improve certain areas. But my question really is, what happens to the people that get displaced?
That's the research that continues to need to be done. I mean, there is some that's been done, but not a lot. And it's not easy to do. In Washington, what's happened with a lot of people who didn't have a lot of money, and a lot of people who did, actually, people who had money, first left the city and went out to Prince George's County, in Maryland, which is the county that's closest to the city. And then later, poor people are now being forced out into the Prince George's County. So that Prince George's County in the communities is sometimes called the Ninth Ward. There are 8 wards in the city, and now they're calling Prince George's County the Ninth Ward just because there are so many people who have moved in from D.C. And it's also produced problems of housing, problems of crime, greater problems than they had in the past. From what people tell me, that's just my impression of it.
What could be a possible solution to those people who get displaced? I think maybe something has to happen before they get displaced. I mean, their job possibilities or options.
Well, first, I think fundamentally you have to change the whole structure of education and economic opportunities for people. I mean, if you don't have the money to afford an education and you cannot control where you live, then you're going to have real problems in stabilizing yourself. Now, there are some working class people who are left here because they were fortunate enough to buy their home, but still, when the price of housing has gone up, so it's difficult to keep paying your taxes, especially when you get older and live on a fixed income. One of the other things that's happened is a lot of African Americans moved to this community, to this area, because in the 30s and 40s, because there were good jobs with the federal government for them, steady jobs that had pensions attached and security, so that they could buy homes. Now those jobs have been subcontracted to private businesses, so that if you work for the federal government, in many cases you'll be working for a subcontractor, and you don't get any kind of benefits. You get much lower wages with no security involved. So it's made it a much more so we think that's where it comes serious issue for people who work for the federal government. There's been a lot of layoffs because of it. I think that's an important variable. But the most important thing to me is giving people the skills, giving children the kind of education that's meaningful so that they can get the skills to compete in the kind of economy that's developing here now. But, I'm not even sure what that kind of economy is.
Now, there's been a lot of violence in the street, a lot of killings, gunplay going on. And I was talking with one resident here who was saying her feeling is that it's due to the absence of black men in the family, that many black men are in jail, and that when they come out, this is what they know, is that kind of lifestyle, and that's all they're offering these young boys who have these guns.
Well, I think that's a limited view myself, because there are so many young African American men who go to jail with no real serious reason. They're charged with felonies for very minimal kinds of crimes, and now if you look at the news or if you read the papers, you see how they're beginning to reassess that, because people have spent years in jail for doing almost nothing or nothing in some cases. And if we really think that it's because these guys come out and I'm not saying that none of them do, but I don't think that's the biggest problem. And when they do, one of the reasons is because there's no attempt to rehabilitate them and train them for some kind of job. So what else can they do? But I think drugs is a real issue, and we all know now that there have been times when the CIA and other official individuals in official positions have been involved in that whole drug business. And if you have rotten education in cities, which we do in the central cities, not just of D.C., but in most of the cities in the United States, and the children have no place for recreation in the communities, which is certainly true in this neighborhood, in my neighborhood. And what do you want children to do if the drugs are out there hanging on the corner all of the time? And that's the experience that I saw. I've tutored a lot of children in the projects, and I've seen this kind of thing happen. If you're not able to get them interested in something important like education, by 11 years old, I've seen drug dealers standing in the shadows in their projects, and they catch these kids at the age of 11.
Put them to work.
Yes, exactly. And many of them start out as messengers, carrying the drugs, and then they advance from there. And they trap them. I mean, they encourage them to use, and once they use, it's not difficult to get hooked on it.